You can unmute yourself, Laura.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, for those of you that are joining us by Zoom, if you want any kind of public comment, I need to get you listed now. So if you would unmute yourself and identify yourself, and we'll put you on the list and give you some minutes before the commission starts their regular agenda. Anyone? Going once? Going twice? Gone. All right, Susan, do we have people that's listed
Nobody
here?
signed up.
Pardon?
Nobody has signed up.
Nobody signed up here. All right. Let me mute my phone so that I don't get caught.
That's not a bad idea.
All right, we'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for September the 16th to order. If you'll please rise. Join me in an invocation followed by the pledge of the flag. Dear Lord, I pray that you guide us always, satisfy the needs that need to be met during this meeting, strengthen us as we make tough decisions. I pray that we will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose water never fails. I pray that we will be fruitful. Father, please guide us so that this meeting can be productive. Let us be effective and decisive. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, 10 o'clock, we have a hearing on an alley closure in the Haywood area. Randall and Kimball Newsom. Mr. Parker, you want to set the stage, and is there anyone here representing?
Mr. Watson, Luke Thomas.
All right, come on up.
And I also have Mr. Newsom with me.
All right, both of you, no problem. All right, Mr. Parker, set the stage, and then we'll turn it over to council.
In your packet, you have a notice of public hearing that was prepared and advertised as required, and you have a copy of the certificate of publication, as well as certified letters that were delivered to property owners that abut the proposed alley closure. And I think, to my knowledge, all of those are Newsom family or family members, maybe the same party, I don't know. But you have the petition, and then you have a couple of maps in your agenda, one that outlines the proposed area for closure, and then an aerial shot. This page right here, if you see that in your agenda packet, this is the alley closure that we're talking about.
All right. Council, identify yourself for the record, and we'll yield to you and your client.
Thank you. My name is Luke Thomas. I'm with the law firm of Jackson & Kelly, and I represent Randall and Kimberly Newsom, as well as Newsom Enterprises, in this petition for abandonment of alleyway. We've got a couple of folks who live on the opposite end of the alley who have acknowledged, and I don't know if I give them to him or you guys.
All right,
that they have no
part of the
issues,
record.
but they have no issues with the abandonment of the alleyway. Those are the only two residents that are on that alleyway, and I'll call Mr. Newsom to stand quickly. Just to
All right, that's fine.
run through a couple of things. Mr. Newsom, you understand you're sworn in here today?
Yes.
Mr. Newsom, I'm showing you a map here. And is this an accurate depiction of the I'll call it the pink portion of this? Is that what you're asking to be abandoned here today?
Yes.
And just beyond that pink portion, in the alleyway, there's denoted a garage. Does that garage block any access beyond that point for anybody to traverse that alleyway below it, coming through the pink area?
No.
it would stop anybody from coming down through the pink area, correct?
Yes, you couldn't get there.
Okay, but there is alternate access to these, what we'll call lower lots below the garage and below the pink alleyway. They have access to those lots via alternative route that they actually use now, correct?
Well, the alley is there, but nobody uses it.
You're talking about the pink portion.
Nobody uses this.
Okay, so nobody even uses that portion either.
Nobody uses any of this alley. It's never been, developed.
Okay. But nobody uses the pink portion that you're asking to be abandoned either,
No.
correct?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. And we're asking pursuant to the statute cited in our petition that this be the portion that is also shown on your map. This is just a larger version of your guys' map that's attached to the petition. That section that is 14 feet in wide and it's pinkish in color, we're asking that that be abandoned to the relative lot owners that are adjacent to that area, which are the Newsom family, Randall and Kimberly, or their company, Newsom Enterprises.
All right, so the other affected property owners adjacent to that alley have no issue with it being abandoned.
There are none in this area. Mr. Newsom and/or Newsom Enterprises owns all of the affected alley, all the lots that surround the portion that would be abandoned.
Questions from the commission? David? Give you a second. All righty. Mr. Parker, have you reviewed this as staff for us?
Yes, Ms. Schaefer, and the planning director and her department and I have reviewed this. As you gentlemen would see from this map that is included in your
The aerial?
the aerial photo. The alleyways are not developed, appear to be unused, that we're talking about, even the one down below parcel 273 and then up 275, 276, that they could go down and come up that area, but those are undeveloped. There's one individual that owns many of these lots. I don't know the house on 270 and owns quite a few of those lots. There are a couple owned by out of area resident or individuals. But it would appear, according to the statute, any of the property that abuts the proposed closure is owned by the Newsom family. And if there, is access required, there is alternative means, even though it's undeveloped. The current access is undeveloped also. So, in discussion with Ms. Schaefer and her staff, I see no reason not to recommend the closure of the alley unless there's someone here today to speak against that.
We'll ask. David, any comments, concerns?
Move to approve.
All right, Patsy? Okay, as part of discussion, is there anyone here that is opposed to the closure of the alley? Either speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, hearing none, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? With that, council, will you do I think we need an order.
Correct,
And
yes. We would,
also take the necessary action to make that part of Rocky Romano's bid and the little taxes for the property as it goes back.
yeah, we'll need it.
Whatever you have to do to consolidate the land.
We'll need an order in it.
All right? Yep. Work on the order with our staff there. All
I'll
right,
do that.
thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, back to new business. Public comment period, we have none. Consent agenda, what's the pleasure? Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Payroll change notices,
We have none.
exonerations, corrective tickets, joint property application.
Corrective tickets are mainly associated with the change in district.
Change in district?
Yes. From 19 to 18 or 18 to 19.
Patsy, you need to see these. Just 2 sets of minutes.
Yes.
All right, what's the pleasure on the payroll change? I'm sorry, the exonerations, corrective tickets, and joint property application. Any further discussion? Here or none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6, do we have action on that?
We have one that'll be on the agenda for the 30th, meeting. It did not make the meeting for
All right.
time for the day, so we'll have that on the 30th.
Just for the record, item 6 is consider the approval of project fund requisition as part of the bond program that's paid out of proceeds, and that's for the North Land Bay improvements up at Charles Point area. All right, item 7, review, discuss, and consider a judicial order from the Administrative Office of the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia regarding parking issues and courthouse hours of operation for judicial staff. Mr. Parker, set the tone.
All right. In your packet, you have a copy of the judicial administrative order setting the working hours for the court system, and it is outlined what those would be, signed by all 3 circuit judges and the family court judges. And then also included in your packet is a response dated August the 28th to a letter that I had drafted to the administrative office, or an email that I drafted to the administrative office of the Supreme Court of Appeals. I sent that to Sarah Loftus, a paralegal. She referred it to one of their administrative counsel individuals, Bradley Schmalzer, and you see his response. It relates to a few issues, parking being one associated with the different courts, the family court, magistrate court, and circuit court, for officials and staff members, and then hours of operation. I did have a brief discussion with Mr. Schmalzer, and he has outlined the code that sets forth the requirements for family court space, as well as he references the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, we have in place for the family court. It's their position, when administrative office of the Supreme Court of Appeals, and I do believe as well as the family court judges, that the MOU and statute would require the commission to provide parking for their elected officials as well as their staff. And I think there's 3 or 4 staff members, if I remember correctly. And of course, we're providing for the 2 judicial officers in the family court currently. The second question deals with magistrates and or their staff. We currently provide parking for the magistrates in the garage area. And Mr. Schmalzer cites the West Virginia Code 5111, talks about providing office space, et cetera. In that paragraph, it says the statute is silent as to the provisions of parking, and then he referenced a court case, state and Lambert versus Stevens, I think is the reference, in 1997, and he quotes, it is clearly a widely accepted principle in this country that courts have the inherent authority to require resources such as sufficient funds for operating expenses, workspace, parking space, supplies, and other materials, particularly, though not exclusively, when those necessary resources are paid for with judicial funds. And then he referenced that issue seems to fall clearly within that realm of inherent administrative authority, which supports a court in requiring necessary resources for the performance of its duties. That's why the statute is silent as to the provision of parking. Judges are deemed to have the inherent administrative authority to secure such resources. Under Stevens, parking is deemed a necessary resource. All courts deal with potentially dangerous individuals, such as criminals and domestic violence perpetrators, and appropriate parking can provide for their safety. And says, finally, as a general matter, the court does not pay for parking for employees in circuit courts, family courts, magistrate courts, or probation offices. And, of course, the family court, we do get a reimbursement for the family court space on a monthly basis. We send the bill to the West Virginia Supreme Court Administrative Office and receive reimbursement from the West Virginia Supreme Court for the family court space. So it would appear that, or it could be appear, possibly, however you would like to look at it, that, the court system, the Supreme Court does pay for parking indirectly, at least, as a result of that monthly payment for the family court personnel. And then I also addressed the circuit court and their staff. The wording is pretty much the same, different code reference 732 for requirements of providing suitable office spaces, et cetera, et cetera. He references the same court case as I read it, and pretty much verbatim down through the remaining part of that paragraph on the third page. And then the last question dealt with public access to the courthouse. Of course, as you gentlemen are aware, it was formerly at 8:30 prior to our pre-COVID operation guidelines. That was changed to 9:30, and now it's been moved back to 9 o'clock. And 732 relates to the establishment of hours of operation for the courthouse, which includes the courts and offices herein set out, that shall be open to the public Monday through Friday during hours prescribed by the county commission. And Mr. Smalzer's response is, the circuit and courts of limited jurisdiction may function on whatever time frame is deemed appropriate by the chief judge of that circuit as established by internal policy or administrative order to effectuate the prompt and orderly administration of justice. Facility availability to the public is established by the county commission by order, which we do each January in our organizational meeting, but established by the county commission by order, presumably in coordination with the courts, so as to offer the public unfettered access to the state judiciary system. However, internal operations and internal court hours are not subject to county mandates. In an opinion acknowledging the power of the county to establish courthouse hours under West Virginia Code 732, the Attorney General added that the county court must recognize that each of the public officers which are housed in the courthouse has specialized functions, which at certain times require the doors of the courthouse to be open beyond the regular established business hours. As for example, the offices of the county clerk, circuit clerk at election time, and says in establishing business hours for the courthouse, a county court, which is county commission now, cannot unreasonably interfere with the functions of constitutional county officers such as the county prosecuting attorney, the county assessor, and the county sheriff. Established business hours for the courthouse must be consistent with the orderly function of all county offices and the needs and convenience of all who use the county courthouse, unquote. Thus, restrictions on the use of court offices by county officers and employees during hours that the facility is not open to the public is not authorized under the statute. Similarly, emergency matters requiring the use of court facilities are authorized under court rules. For example, Rule 1 of the Administrative Rules for Magistrate Court establishes the hours and availability of the magistrates to handle day-to-day business, as well as establish on-call and emergency hours. In the end, the prompt and efficient administrative justice is of paramount importance, and access to justice by the citizens of the state of West Virginia is a key component to achieving these goals.
All right. Well, Mr. Parker, with reference to the hours, my 18 years, it seems we've never had any issues working with the court systems with regard to access to the courthouse. Our hours have always been 8:30 to 4:30, I think, for general public use. How the constitutional officers operate their different areas is strictly up to them, as long as they have someone that their office is open during those times. Is that correct?
That's the way I understand the
All right.
statute, Mr. President.
So where do we differ on the hours now? I realize the COVID has created the issue. We're now back to 9 o'clock for the general public, and still working with the judicial and the court system on to whatever their needs are. Is that correct?
Yes. Currently, we are bringing in staff, security staff, as well as administrative staff at each of the entrances, 3rd Street entrance and the front entrance at 7:30. It was 7 o'clock, but we moved that back to 7:30. So personnel can arrive anywhere from 7:30 to 8:30 and get, and allow sufficient time, to get through. Most personnel arrive closer to the 8:30. There are some offices that have personnel arriving by 8 o'clock, so we do have some between 7:30 and 8. I think many of the judicial offices arrive by 8 o'clock, if I remember the administrative order correctly. That's in the packet. But from, by 9 o'clock, then the courthouse would be open for public access. We do sometimes have hearings prior to that that require, for lack of a better word, commingling of the public employees at some of the entrances. For family court, magistrate court, it'd be 3rd Street. For the circuit court, it's normally the front door entrance, and that was some of the concern. But, it's a matter of, working with the commission and county commission and the court system for the overall access.
All right, on the hours, until we get to the new normal, and if it goes into the next sitting commission, then they can choose at their organizational meeting what the operational hours will be. But if some changes come up with COVID now, then we would go back to the 8:30 for the general public. As you can see, we're only a half an hour away from there now. With the hours, let's have some discussion on that. Patsy, you have any comments or anything?
No.
David?
No, I think it's in our best interest to keep the public and our employees separated as much as we can. We work at it once we get them in the building. There's no point in letting them gather.
All right, and let me yield, Judge, to you. Do you have, is there anything that you want changed from our perspective, or can we operate the way we've done for years, working with the court system to accommodate whenever you need it?
I guess my initial thought is, as I understand, the Supreme Court's opinion is the courts control that. And I think we need to work together. If the court needs to set a hearing at 8 o'clock, those public, are
Yeah.
being allowed in, and they currently are.
That's
So I'm not sure what the issue is. I mean, we're all here to serve the public.
Right.
So, but I don't see that there's an issue.
Okay,
If the courthouse doesn't have to open generally, if
Right.
the family court has an 8:30 hearing, or if the circuit court,
Right.
has an 8 o'clock, I think we just work together on that.
good. And that's the way I see it, and that's the way it's been in the past, Judge. So.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Parker, any, thing from staff with regard to the hours of the operation? Other than making this part of today's record?
No, it requires no action that I would know of at this point. It's just a matter of making part of today's record, and if there is a need to space out some hearings, whether it be magistrate court, family court,
Wherever.
and I think they're trying to do that to the best of their ability of not having everybody arrive at 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever the schedule may be, to space that out through the day, so we do have adequate spacing in the waiting areas and such.
All right. Now for the other issue, which is the parking issue. Let's have some discussion on that. David, I'll yield to you first with regard to the parking. This was brought to our attention by the family court judges with reference to their staff on a document that apparently I have signed as a MOU. Is it an MOU or
Yeah.
a lease agreement or what?
Memorandum of understanding and providing space for the family court.
And my question is this the only part of the Supreme Court services that is providing for their staff?
To my knowledge, yes, the part of according to my understanding of Mr. Smalzer's opinion or discussion with him, is that parking is included in that payment covered by the memorandum of understanding, the monthly payment we receive.
All right.
For the,
Whatever
for the elected judges as well as their staff.
elected judges, is that all elected judges?
Family court judges as it relates to that MOU.
Okay,
That specifically, MOU is specific for the family court
okay,
system.
so not for the magistrates or for the circuit judges?
So as I relayed, or as Mr. Smalzer relayed in his, response letter, the statute is silent on parking as it relates to the magistrate court system and circuit court system. But in his reference to the Stevens case, I think is what he referenced or called that, case, is, his opinion and his understanding that the court system would have the inherent authority to require such resources.
And what keeps us from billing the state for these parking spots?
Nothing would stop you from billing. I don't know if you would collect.
Next question is, how do we treat these parking spots as far as, do we have all employees pay for parking? Except for these people are employees, correct?
No, these are not county employees. They have paid in the past. All employees, whether it be state associated offices, family court, circuit court, magistrate court, probation, whatever the case may be, have paid for parking in the past. And then county employees have had it deducted from their paycheck for individuals that have parking as county employees. It's a payroll deduction.
All right, David?
So what keeps us then from just saying we're not gonna charge any employees for it?
Nothing whatsoever. That's a decision of the county commission. Now, the county commission took action to eliminate state employees, court system probation employees from our county parking lot. So that was sent out. Many have turned in their.
Why did we do that?
The commission took action to do that. That was a vote of the commission.
We've had county employees waiting for years and years to get in there. Then it's a county law. We determine county employees.
So it's a matter, if interpreting the MOU, you would either need to provide, if you concur with that opinion, from Mr. Schmalzer, you would need to provide for the family court employees, either at another location, city garage, or city Clarksburg parking garage, wherever that may be. And then talk to the judiciary about, circuit court staff and magistrate court staff.
When can that MOU be renegotiated?
That's an annual basis.
Can it still be brought up? Is there a provision in there?
The commission could bring it, yeah, you could send a letter asking for a revision. I'm doubtful if the Supreme Court Administrative Office would sign off, but based on my discussion with Mr. Schmalzer, I don't see that happening.
And when is the, termination of that MOU?
June,
June,
yeah, it can run on the fiscal year,
this coming June.
yes.
So we could eat it till June and redo it. All right,
Are we mandated to supply them court space? Or can they go find court space elsewhere?
We're mandated to provide court space. If you do not have adequate court space in your facility, the Supreme Court can arrange for family court, to rent space outside the courthouse facility, and the county's obligated to, arrange to make that happen. I know there's some counties, in particular, I knew Lewis County at one time was like that before they had their judicial annex. But yes, you are mandated to provide those court facilities.
so right now, the pressing part of the parking is for family court staff,
Correct.
including the judges. Of course, the judges is already parking.
Yeah, they're
We've
already,
always provided that
they're
for,
already included in the garage area, yeah.
in the garage area, right? Okay,
And I think it's 3 or 4 staff members
all right.
at the family court.
So,
Family court system.
let's just address, what the pressing need is, David, to begin with, which is family court.
Family court's fine to take up, we can find them 4 spots till June. But I still have to understand, why the parking fee for employees and not a parking fee for elected officials.
Are you talking about in the garage?
Yeah.
You're not talking about the lot?
Oh,
All right.
That's been a practice or procedure or outline, to my knowledge, we do have 1 or 2 officials that are paying. I know Ms. Thomas has been, and, you know, the question would come as it relates to an elected official, constitutional official, is a taxable fringe benefit relating to statutory compensation, if there's no fee charged and paid. There could be an argument, an opinion, whatever, from the IRS that is a taxable fringe benefit, and thus should be added into the compensation and taxes paid by the employee and employer, and then it's deducted back out of the compensation at the same time, so it doesn't, for an elected official, it actually reduces your overall statutory compensation, because as you gentlemen are aware, the county commissioner can earn X number of dollars in a calendar year and fiscal year. And a taxable fringe benefit would be included, let's assume it's $200 for the year, then the actual compensation would need to be reduced by $200 per year.
Would be reduced.
Yes. Now, if you're paid, then that's not the situation.
What if we just make it free for everybody that's a county employee?
My opinion, it would be a taxable fringe benefit for the employees at that point, and would need to be,
Could you get us an IRS determination on that?
I can try and request that, yes.
You mentioned Ms. Thomas, I learned last meeting that Commissioner Hinkle's also been paying.
As I understand it, he took action to do that, yes.
And again, up till this issue, it's never been a matter that's been brought up before. Okay, where we go with, what's staff's recommendation? Let's,
I can bring back, I'll try and request an IRS interpretation as it relates to the taxable fringe benefit, not only for a constitutional official, but if the commission decided not to charge the employees, then, there will be some, question along those lines. I'll see if I can, get an answer to that, because the IRS has changed their definition of a taxable fringe benefit over time. For example, cell phones that are provided by the employer used to be a taxable fringe benefit. The IRS changed their ruling and,
all right,
or their interpretation or opinion or ruling, and those are no longer a taxable fringe benefit.
Mr. Parker, with regard to family court, which is the issue, would it be appropriate for us to find parking space then for those 3 employees, and place them, wherever we can find parking? I know we're looking, helping Clarksburg out or something with the parking garage. We're only talking family court.
At this point, yes, to my knowledge.
All right, what's the pleasure of the commission? Essie?
I think it's required. It's,
Yeah,
it's a provision of parking included in terms of MOU between the court and the county. That the cost of parking being included in the total monthly payment.
Right.
amount. So,
that's something, in your next commission, you guys can, address how you want to do that with the new MOU.
So let's go ahead and find the magistrate court.
Or this is, not for magistrate court, for, family court.
Yeah, let's go find the parking.
All right, so that's a motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Right.
Those that said nay, you're an aye? An aye. David?
Aye.
Okay, so it's unanimous. And with regard to the, hours of operation, Judge, we'll just work with you like we have always, with regard to that. So, all right, any other thing on that, Mr. Parker?
Not that I'm-
Find a space for them and let the family court judges, know, and,
All right,
move their staff, give them an opportunity to go wherever you can find space.
all right.
All right. Where are we at then? How about, item not, no. I'm sorry, Tommy. You high dollar guys sitting on there back there, Mr. Steptoe. 10:15, sorry, we got you a little late. Tom Amon and, Bob Steptoe. If you guys want to come on up, and, Mr. Parker set the stage for us.
Of course, as you gentlemen are aware, this relates, the adoption order, that's the first item, under this appointment for the general services annex project. And you have multiple documents or draft documents in your packet related to this. And then, item 2 is an order, requesting the reappointment of Greg Solis as a member of the Harrison County Building Commission for a 5-year term. And then item 3 is a clarifying order, relating to the, other post-employment benefit and other contingent liability funds.
All right. Mr. Amon, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Thank you. I know you guys always like me to introduce myself. So, Tom Amon with Steptoe & Johnson, bond counsel, for the building commission and the county commission for the GSA building financing. As you're aware, of course, the building commission is in the process of reading an authorizing ordinance. They're scheduled later today at 2:30 to have a public hearing and consider that ordinance for final enactment, which would be the primary official action of the building commission to issue not more than $23 million in aggregate principal amount of lease revenue bonds to finance the construction of the GSA building, and also the reimbursement to the commission of some costs previously incurred by the commission relating to that project. As we discussed before, I'll just give you a brief high-level overview just for the benefit of those who haven't heard it before. Due to state constitutional limitations under Article 10 of our state constitution, the county doesn't have the ability to bind a future commission to an expenditure of funds. Therefore, we have some case law that determines that a building commission can enter into annual appropriation lease obligation where they issue bonds to finance the project, enter into a lease arrangement with the county. The county pays lease payments annually that pays the debt service and other costs associated with the bonds. That lease is required by Chapter 8, Article 33 of our state codified laws, that the county commission have the ability to cancel that lease on an annual basis and to appropriate funds through its budgeting process to pay the lease rentals for the upcoming year, which then ultimately pays the debt service on the bonds. So that's the structure that we have in place. The building commission is pursuing a public offering of those bonds through Cruz and Associates, who's the underwriting firm. Rob Steptoe is with Cruz and Associates. They would purchase those bonds from the building commission and then resell those bonds to an investor group that would be the ultimate owners of the bonds. As we've discussed before, we went through a RFP process to see if banks would be interested in purchasing the bonds. It's a pretty large project for local or regional banks, and also the annual appropriation situation is not conducive to a lot of credit analysis for banks. Also, banks have a hard time going out more than 15 years on a fixed rate basis. So got no responses from banks with respect to the financing proposal. So Cruz is pursuing the public offering approach. The order, what's in front of the county commission today is an order, this would be the official action of the county commission with respect to the project. It approves the lease arrangement that I discussed between the building commission and the county commission in the form, substantial form of a lease agreement, which has been distributed for review. As I mentioned, that's an annual appropriation lease arrangement. It provides for basically everything relating to the operation of the facility to be handled by the county commission. Everything you currently do now with respect to facilities that you own, operation, maintenance, insurance, all those types of things. It recommends the issuance of the bonds. It makes a recommendation to the building commission that they issue the bonds to finance the project, the amount not to exceed $23 million. at a rate not to exceed 5% for a term not longer than 30 years from the issue date. With a public offering of bonds such as this, it requires that the county commission enter into a continuing disclosure undertaking. So following the bond issue, there's certain information that has to be provided through a information portal that allows bondholders and potential bondholders to be apprised of what the operational status of the county is, so they can make decisions about whether they want to hold those bonds, trade those bonds, et cetera. And so we have an agreement that does that, continuing disclosure agreement. This order would approve that agreement. Also approves, as to substantial form, a bond purchase agreement primarily between the building commission and Cruz and Associates as the underwriting firm, but the county is also a party to that. Also, continuing disclosure policies and procedures. So to give the county commission guidance as to what they can do to facilitate compliance with that continuing disclosure agreement and undertaking. It's primarily, the continuing disclosure is primarily the audited financial statements of the county. So that is the order itself and the official action that's being taken. This would be the final action that would be necessary by this county commission with respect to the bond issue. It authorizes the president of the commission and the building commission to approve the final terms of the bonds that would result from the sale and the pricing, and therefore execute the closing documents in substantial form with what's being approved here. And so Rob and I are here to try and answer any questions that you all may have with respect to that.
All right, Mr. Steptoe, is there anything you would like to add to the conversation at this point?
Just maybe just a recap of the financial overview that we had last week. In our analysis, we have determined that there are sufficient excess revenues historically over the last 4 years of around $1,516,000. And behind that are available unrestricted funds in the amount of about $10.5 million. And then behind that is about $1.5 million on average. We check back for about 5 years, about $1.5 million in unused levy capacity. I'd like to hand this to you all just so you have a big picture of the levy history. But I say this because these are this is your financial situation along with the excess revenue, the unrestricted funds, and also the unused levy capacity that's been in place for the last 17 years. So with that, let me just give you all this, if I may.
Mr. Steptoe, when you're saying levy capacity, you're dealing levy rates within the general fund, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Willie, for clarifying that.
As you
Not the
gentlemen,
vital service.
no, as you gentlemen are aware, our levy rate is below the state maximum and has been for a number of years.
And I would just like to take credit for some of that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, not raising taxes.
Exactly. And let me add also that over the last 9 years, the assessed property valuations in the county have gone up at least 25%.
Right.
9 years ago, they were at $3.3 billion. Today, they're over $4.4 billion. We're talking, you don't have a tax-based concentration such as a massive employer leaving the county, and whoops, what do we do now? You don't have that concentration in one employer. You also have property taxes. let's think about the nature of these taxes. These aren't sales taxes, these aren't B&O taxes, that type of thing. So these are property taxes that are going to be collected. So as of now, the county doesn't anticipate any significant impacts to your property tax collection. These are just the facts. This is the analysis that we've come to. You don't have any outstanding long-term debt, so that's a positive. You have, as I said, a strong cash position of about $10.5 million. The project is essential. And you have historically low interest rates. We've put a structure in place that makes the annual debt service as manageable as possible and gives you prepayment and refinancing flexibility. And to end, you have a construction bid that's $2 to $2.5 million under the projection. And that's just the facts, that's the analysis, and I just wanted to walk through that with everyone, just so we had the big picture.
The valuations that Mr. Steptoe mentioned are the net assessed valuations, not including exempt or anything. Those are the taxable valuations from the certificate of valuations that the assessor's office provides.
All right.
Yeah, the exempt properties are pulled out.
Okay.
And we have went through an exercise of identifying and combining real property, personal property, public utility property, all different types of property into a top 10 or 15 taxpayer list. And I think the largest was right at 3%, and then it drops to 1 point something. The overall is 12%, 13% of the top 10 taxpayers, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I have it here.
So there's, and what Mr. Steptoe was talking about is there's not that concentration in one or two firms where if something, would, XYZ firm, would go out, then it would affect the county in the overall, but it doesn't have a large adverse effect to our situation.
May I approach and show you all?
Rob.
I just have one copy. So the point is, there are sufficient excess revenues over the last 4 or 5 years, on average, as I said, of about $1,516,000. The debt service and the cost to operate the new building are somewhere between $995,000 to $1.2 million. So the revenues are sufficient historically, and that's adding back the one-time expenditures that were all for essential projects such as roof replacements, HVAC, 911, and so on. And behind that is a strong cash position and unused levy capacity, historically going back 17 years, averaging each year $1.5 million. So if you needed $100,000 to make a payment, there's $13 million out there that could be, a portion of which, for that $100,000, could be reallocated. So that's the big picture.
All right. Questions? Pat, do you have any questions of either Tom or Rob?
Yeah, well, just thinking, and I want to make sure, we're just authorizing and approving the conveyance of the real personal property constituting the site of the general service administration building and the existing courthouse together with the building. In layman terms, What's that saying? Are we using the courthouse as collateral?
Yeah, so the site and also the building that would be constructed, that would be the GSA, would be pledged as collateral. A deed of trust would be given on that building and also the existing courthouse to secure repayment of the bonds being issued by the building commission. There would be, the courthouse would be, if it got to the point where the GSA building gets completed, there's been no event of default on the bonds within the prior 12 months, and if the commission has appropriated lease rentals for the upcoming year to pay the debt service on the bonds, the courthouse deed of trust would be released and terminated, and you'd be left with the deed of trust on the GSA site and building. So that's anticipated to occur within, I think, 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, construction is estimated at 15 to 17 months, so it'll take you a month or two to occupy after that. So we're looking at less than 2 years in all likelihood. And then the lien is released on the courthouse.
And that's for the purpose of securing the bondholders and the construction risk associated with the outlay to build the new building.
Okay, so this building will just be collateral until the construction is done. And then you said that we weren't able to we're going after public funds because no lending institution stepped in.
Right, no lending institution stepped in when we went out with a full bank solicitation for proposals.
And yet, I'll make sure I'm right, because I want to make sure.
Okay.
That means that the city of Bridgeport, in a $40 million project, a population of 8,500 people as opposed to 70,000 people, were able to get financing that Harrison County wasn't able to for a $20 million project. The city of Bridgeport got financing through the lending institution for a $40 million project.
Well, I would just say with respect to that.
Without putting up the city hall for collateral.
Right. Yes.
Okay, that's a dedicated sales tax revenue stream from the city of Bridgeport.
And the city of Clarksburg was able to do the same thing for the Robinson grant.
Okay.
So my question to you is, it sends no red flags to you guys. That'll be long gone after this building's built.
I don't have.
No lending institution that was wanting to touch this.
Well, lending at banks, you're talking about local banks, regional banks.
I'm saying a local bank.
Right. Right.
Those two projects.
They're going to have.
Banks the size of Chase.
They're going to have.
That a president said was too large to fail, too big to fail, didn't touch this project. Yes or no?
It's a different factual basis.
Different. Our
It's
project
apples
is
and oranges.
the City of Bridgeport sports complex, and it's different than the City of Clarksburg's Robinson Grant project.
It's different, right?
Different.
Absolutely. Every fact pattern's entirely different. You know, this project is, in terms of cash flow, needs to go out longer. As Tom and I have said, the local banks weren't comfortable going out 30 years.
But the first report you said to me was 15 years, and now it's 30.
The first report.
So this was going to be financed for 15 years all along.
Yeah, we were looking at 15-year period to begin with, and then we looked at a 30-year period or longer term, up to 30 years, with the flexibility of repayment and refinancing for the overall, hopefully the benefit of both, where you get the lower upfront cost, but you can make the flexibility of early payments and refinancing.
See, if you compress the debt service into 15 years, then you're looking at like $1.7 or $1.8 million annually. When you push it out 30 years, the debt service is closer to $1 million. And that matters, I think. Plus, you have the flexibility to prepay bonds and also get in the market and refinance those bonds.
We have a cap on what we can prepay. Say we have a great year like Ritchie County did when the fracking consumed
Yeah.
and they had all this fluid cash. And
Right.
maybe we do have that fluid cash. We still can only pay back, what, $200,000?
Up to $400,000 annually, but
Okay.
Patsy, that's for,
Why is
we're gonna
that?
try to get you the shortest period that you have to wait until you can refinance more or prepay more. Okay, that's part of the marketing.
We haven't even built the building, and we're already refinancing it because we're gonna get a high interest rate?
No, that's just part of the provision. It's a prepayment, and it's called a prepayment or redemption provision.
What is the bond dollar value worth if the interest rate goes up?
The
It's not worth a dollar. We're gonna sell them for 90, 80 cents on the dollar. So we're gonna pay a higher interest rate and not get the value for our dollar?
Well, see,
when we're gonna sell
that
the bond?
was my point earlier, is that these interest rates are historically low. So if you have a bid that's $2 or $2.5 million under projection, and interest rates that have never been this low, and you have the ability to market a 30-year structure to bondholders, and you have the flexibility to prepay and also redeem bonds, where's the downside to that?
Let me ask you this. I've been with Willie and David and Ron now,
Yeah.
going over this about 8 weeks. Where's this $1 million surplus that you see, that you saw each year? Because our reports are telling me, our courthouse reports, and you're looking at something besides the courthouse report, where's that money coming? Because I'm showing that we're spending more than we're bringing in over the past 4 years. And yes, I understand that's because of one-time money, but at the same time, help me understand where you're, do you have a report that shows me that $1 million? Because I don't have it, and I know if it existed, one of these three people that are on the opposite side of me right now would have showed me in the past 8 weeks.
They're looking at the same reports that have been provided, the exact same reports,
Where's the $1 million? You haven't showed it to me.
the financial
Show
statement.
me where.
Are you talking about the excess?
We got all the.
Are you talking about the excess revenue? Are you talking about the excess revenue? Are you talking about the historical excess revenue?
All right, hold on. Patsy, go ahead with yours, and then we'll have a response. So one person talk at a time.
I told you, we have reviewed the financials that are available.
Can I see them?
Absolutely.
Where's the $1 million? I just
Well,
want you to show me
It's
that.
$1,500,000.
I think you have a table in the offering document
Yeah,
that,
okay.
that takes what their fund balances have been and adjusts them for the one-time expenditures and arrives at the,
Adjusting for one-time expenditures that we hope we don't have from this point on. Because we're not gonna have one-time
Rob,
expenditures
let's-
anymore?
Let's do this. There's no way Patsy will be able to, through osmosis, absorb whatever you're gonna give him. So if you can give him the
Sure.
document and let him have it so that it is leading, he can.
Well, I can absorb eighth grade math, and that's what eighth grade math is. We're spending more than we bring in,
Okay,
and it's as simple as that. It doesn't matter if we look at the billing report or
right.
the tax customer report. You see the same numbers I do, so.
Hey, could we unmute Mr. Lambert and let Mr. Lambert respond? I'm sure he would be happy to. Here's the page here.
Let's do the chair. Mr. Michael Lambert, are you on here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, very good.
what page?
Mr. Lambert's with Cruz and Associates.
31.
For individuals that may not be aware.
Michael, we're talking about page 31 in the preliminary official statement.
Okay.
And I think page 31, the table illustrates and answers the question that Commissioner Treecost threw out to me. Do you have anything to add based on the discourse?
You know, I would say we went through the financials, we've identified these one-time expenses. Of course, there's going to be additional one-time expenses, but from what we've gathered from our communication with the Harrison County administration, they don't anticipate one-time expenses being as large as what they have been over the last 3 years. It seems like the last 3 years was probably abnormal years. And so we've been able to get comfortable adding those back. That table that you got, that Rob sent out, we've also added to that what we've been told would be the operational expenses for the new GSA. So the net number down there at the bottom reflects the one-time expenses that we identified that seemed to be non-reoccurring, that were larger than typical. And then we backed out, or we subtracted out what we felt the additional costs were going to be. We also added in what we've been told would be additional rental revenue that you would be receiving from a division that would be located in that. And so that's how we got to those numbers for the last 3 years. That is just a view of the last 3 years. That's not a view of how it's going to go in the future. We don't know how it's going to move forward in the future. There could be additional expenses, but again, what we've been told is they're not going to be as substantial as what they have been in the past 3 years.
All right, Patsy? Rob?
No, sir.
Tommy?
Don't have anything.
All right, let's continue then.
I just would like to point one thing out with Bridgeport and Patsy saying that they were able to do banking. The banks, they had several banks take parts of that loan. We had one bank that agreed to be the lead on it and went around and sold different parts. And the other issue was they were able to pledge the 1 cent sales tax, and that, I think, helped with the local banks, but no local bank took that debt on by itself. We don't have a local bank that will take on that debt. As the president of the airport, we work on projects in the $30 to $35 million that we're working on. And again, no one bank in West Virginia will touch those without some kind of guarantee and wanting to use multiple banks. So to think that one bank would come in here and just loan us the money, is just not the norm.
And Rob, you can confirm that that was probably the first conversation you and I ever had, that I would apply for that money at the state level. Remember?
Yeah.
But,
Okay,
but
so
at the same time, we
let's,
agree right now.
let's reverse a little bit. West Banco purchased the bonds on the indoor sports and recreation complex. West Banco stepped up. West Banco has had a relationship in Harrison County with Bridgeport for a long time. There's a relationship there. Okay, so I am just telling you that, this just further reinforces that every situation is different. You cannot transpose this financing with that one.
We agree that.
And we went out, we sent the RFP to 15 banks, local, regional, and national. We have the term sheet, we have the responses, everything. It's just for what they saw at the time, which was a month and a half ago. It's different than now. It's different than today.
Hey, Rob,
So, yeah, sure.
Hey, Patsy, again, just because one bank didn't participate and agree to take the whole thing down, we anticipate when we go out with a public offering that we would get some bank interest in these bonds. We feel like there's going to be good interest in the 5, 10, probably 15-year maturity range, where your local banks, even though they didn't buy the whole thing, probably are going to show interest and go out to regional West Virginia banks and get some interest as well. What they probably won't be able to do is go out to the full 30 years. So that's where the capital markets is a good opportunity, because it will bring in mutual funds. It will bring in investors, individual investors that have a need for that longer paper that does not fit within a bank's lending box. So I would anticipate banks to participate in these bonds. They're just not going to buy the whole thing.
I would say also, from a legal standpoint, there's a big difference in the eyes of banks between an annual appropriation lease obligation and the obligations of Bridgeport and Clarksburg, where they were able to give a direct pledge of their sales tax. Because the county commission, you guys can't give a direct pledge of any of the property tax or any of the revenue streams because it's prohibited by the indebtedness provisions of our Constitution. So that's why we're then reliant on the deeds of trust to foreclose in the event of non-payment, because we can't give any direct pledge of a revenue stream. And that's a significant difference between this project and the two sales tax deals, the one in Clarksburg and the one in Bridgeport.
We're a different type of institution. We can take advantage of a longer, what they call a yield curve. We can piece together the investors who have an interest in the short-term bonds, the mid-term bonds, and the long-term bonds, put it all together and achieve the efficiencies that Michael's talking about. Every local bank will have an opportunity to purchase the bonds. We can even have a local order period specific for Harrison County.
We're hoping that later they participate. We're hoping that the number one agenda in Charleston, West Virginia right now, the inventory tax, doesn't actually go away. We're hoping that the Meadowbrook Mall keeps providing resources to us, even though we know Amazon's consuming them. We're hoping that Antero keeps providing us money, even though we just sent one of our employees to the Board of Education explaining they're trying to do everything they can not to pay the taxes that they have over the years. We continue to, we hang our hat on coal that we know is the number one agenda item should things change in Washington, D.C. to get rid of fossil fuel. We're hanging our hat on everything and hoping things go good on a $25 million project. And the difference between us and the other project, you're right. The other project, the cities had cash and we don't.
You do have cash. I need to correct that. You have $10.5 million in
Where is that?
unrestricted. Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Sure. No, fair enough. Okay. General fund, 4.9. Financial stabilization fund, 3.2. Other various funds, 2.4. That's a total of 10.5. Available unrestricted funds. We're not talking about taking the entire amounts of these funds. You have the existing excess revenue historically each year of $1,516,000. Okay, that's the average over the last 4 years. And then on top of that, you've got the unused levy rate capacity. So that's just
voted on by the citizens.
right. And it's a good thing that you haven't had. Right. Right.
We're talking two different things there. We're talking levy rate for general fund. You're talking vital service levy.
Which you're using for this project.
No. We're having the flexibility in our levy rate is what Mr. Steptoe's talking about, below the maximum statutory. We're not talking vital service levy.
But we balanced our budget this year with that money, guys,
Which money?
from our levy money.
Not from the vital service. You raised the levy rate by what, Willie? Half a percent?
We're
or
reimbursing our
What's
general, we're reimbursing our general county fund and financial stabilization fund for the construction of our 911 facility out of a vital service levy over the
that
next
is
5
a
or
vital
6.
service approved
Yeah,
project,
Where they are and where they could.
Yeah.
not from the levy rate.
yeah, the levy rate, what we're, like Ms. Thomas just said, we're talking about where we are, where we
Used for 17 straight years.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
levy rate 12.7, if I remember right, for class 1. 14.3 is the constitutional max.
There's also a chart in the offering document
Yeah.
that goes through where we are versus where it could be over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
Yeah, two different numbers,
The maxes are on that chart, I believe.
whether you have to have a hearing or not have a hearing to increase, but you have about a 12% flexibility, if I remember right, in your overall levy rate, general county levy rate.
And this last thing I'll say, so any shortfall we have the right to raise taxes and generate more revenue.
You always have that right each year, yeah.
Well, let me ask you, Willie, didn't the commission, I voted no, but didn't the commission raise the levy rate this past time to generate monies for, I don't know, rails, trails or something?
Because we changed our minds, Ron, it was the year before, that unforeseen circumstances, such as COVID, we did unanimously agreed this year wasn't a year to raise taxes.
Yeah, I think we were looking at 12.8,
So you didn't do it?
and then we went back to 12.7.
Okay. I stand corrected.
Let me, one final point. On the charts you have here, look at 2003, 2004, 2004, 2005. Circle those because that's the last time that you have maxed the levy rates. So since then, you're trending below the spectrum. And that's a good thing. Thank you.
Rob, that's when I came in, 2003. And that's when we realized what was going on, and we were starting to determine that the commission at that time.
It's a balance act, yes, sir.
We would not raise the levy rate. All right, other questions with regard to this item? Kathy, I'll continue your discussion if you.
Yeah, I'm on that.
All right, David, we're on item 1.
I don't have any further stuff.
All right, anything from staff or Tommy or Rob or Mr. Lamb?
No, sir.
Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the commission on item 1?
Move to, adopt the order.
All right, any further discussion?
Is there any public comment?
Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Kathy reports no. All right, item 2. That's to consider the adoption of an order appointing Greg Schlise as a member of the Harrison County Building Commission for a 5-year term.
That term will begin on October 1st, 2020, and expire on September 30th, 2025.
And we do have a 3-member board, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And Mr. Schlise is the only one up.
Yes, it alternates, yeah.
All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Motion approved.
We have a motion to approve. Will any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Let me just hear one more aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, item 3, consider the adoption of amended order clarifying the authorized use of Special Fund 0901, Harrison County Fund for Employees Paid Employee Benefits Liabilities and Other Contingent Liabilities. Mr. Parker, or whoever the legal is that's given us the opinion.
Mr. Amon and I discussed this. I sent the current order to Mr. Amon, and not to speak for him, but I think it's his opinion, and I would concur. The current order would allow for such contingent liability payments, for example, lease cruisers or whatever the case may be. But in an abundance of caution, as cautious as Mr. Amon normally is, he would recommend a clarifying order as it relates to if this commission or future commissions would need, as that liability goes down and desire to use those funds for a payment, then this order would clarify and allow specifically that debt service payment. As we've discussed, that current liability is about, in my understanding, is about $5.1 million. We have just over $5.6 million in that account. And based on what the legislature legislative action has been in the past, 2 or 3 years, whenever that was, that contingent liability as it relates to OPEB, that 5.1 will continue in a declining balance or a declining fashion, which X number of years will reach zero. This would allow the funds that are in that special fund to be allocated for this contingent liability or others that this commission or future commissions may need. Mr. Amon can speak to any other comments he may have.
So I would say with respect to this, this is an item as far as the availability of this fund is not something that we are presenting to the bondholders or potential bond insurer for the bonds as an available source of monies to pay debt service on the bonds. Because this is a fairly complicated area of the law as far as our state code on post-employment benefits that I'm not an expert in, and I'm not able to determine from looking at the code and get completely comfortable for myself that this is a source of funds that we could make available to use for this purpose. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying I'm not an expert in that area. And so to be conservative, then we're not presenting that as a part of the bond proposal.
If I might use the privilege of the position here and one who was involved with the authoring of this special fund as to what the intent of the verbiage in this order is or was. Back in 2013, when the state came up with this OPEB and with the responsibilities of counties to set aside or to pay the state, I think it was at that time. Mr. Parker, you might clarify that.
Correct.
But they wanted us to send them money based on what our OPEB liability would be on an ongoing basis. We said, we're not doing that. And I don't think any county actually did that. There may have been an exception, but I'm sure they're not doing it now. So what we did, we said, well, let's do this. We didn't have to do a darn thing. That fund did not have to be generated, created. Did not have to be. So we could have taken whatever monies that we had at that time and thrown it into a different area as a savings, an expenditure, or whatever. So what we did, we said, okay, let's do it this way. And that's the reason the verbiage of other contingent liabilities was put in there. To give this commission at any time the ability to pull that out for whatever contingent needs that we felt was needed at that particular time. We haven't done it, haven't needed to do it. We're not intending on doing it, but it does give the sitting commissions at that time and the next commission coming in the ability to do that. If Patsy wants it for rails to trails, you can pull that out and do whatever you want with it as long as you got the other vote. That was the intent of creating the fund that gives the commission that ability to also use that fund other than for OPEB. And if it's something different than that, whatever you guys have put on as the definition, then that's fine. But I'm just giving you what the intent was at the time in 2013. So, with that, Mr. Parker, go right ahead.
With that being said, Mr. President, it would be the recommendation from staff for the commission to authorize the president's signature.
All right, so in the new amended order, you're giving the next sitting commission or the commission that ability, should they choose. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Based upon, I would just add that based upon the restrictions that you all have placed on yourselves with respect to the use of that money,
Yeah.
I don't know that we can say what Charleston may say with respect
Oh,
to
I
that.
understand that.
I just don't know. So, but as far as the strings that you all put on that,
They
those
can
funds.
challenge it if they want to.
Right.
No problem. All right, further discussion. David? Patsy? Hearing none, need a motion to approve the amended version and fix signatures where appropriate.
So moved.
All right, any,
Also amended order clarifying the authorized use of special fund 901, Harrison County.
all right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
That Patsy's, go on record of reflecting no. All right, gentlemen, I thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
All right, Johnny, if you'll ask Ms. Herndon to come in, I see her sitting out there, she could have, Deborah, come on up. You could have come in here, it wasn't restricted, unless it was social distancing. Yeah.
Just working at my dining room table, I need supplies. Thank you. The kids in virtual school, that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Deborah, how about using this chair right there beside Willie?
All righty.
All right,
You ready to go?
all right. Ms. Herndon, we're very sorry about the.
Carl, you're looking good.
Thanks, Lucky.
Yeah. Watch those lawnmowers.
Mr. Parker, how about setting the stage for us on this funding request from, is it the city of Shinnston?
The Women's Club of Shinnston, they're requesting $2,000.
How much?
2,000 of a 5,500 estimate. According to the documentation, they are not a 501c, a registered 501c3, so that information is not included. Of course, there's no IRS exemption certificate. They have included their list of officers. They did not include really any financial information, as they normally evidently do not prepare that. And then they have a letter outlining what the funding request would be utilized for.
Go ahead for the record.
It's consider a funding request for the Shinnston's Women's Club Clubhouse. The clubhouse, formerly the Columbia Theater, was purchased in 1959. Through the years, rental of the large meeting room provided funds for utilities and other building expenses, along with occasional donations for larger expenses. The clubhouse account has never been flush, but rentals managed to keep us afloat. Due to COVID-19 restrictions and fears, we had 5 months where we had virtually no rentals. During the same 5 months, we had $1,399 in utility bills, $175 in cleaning and maintenance, and $618 in insurance bills. We did not get to form a very nice public, we did get to form a very nice public private partnership during this time. The city of Shinnston approached us about having meetings at the clubhouse so they could meet safely and allow social distancing. The city has paid for upgrades to the air conditioning and has provided workers to clear brush behind the building. Perrine Funeral Home brought painting supplies, and the youth group at Jewel City Church spent several days painting the meeting room and entryway as well as polishing the floor. Club members put in hours cleaning the space and cleaning ahead of the project. We are grateful for this project. During COVID, the Women's Club has offered 3 other service-based organizations to use the space so they can start meeting in a safe environment and continue their work. The Shinnston Garden Club is meeting there this week. The Lowell Public Library is also using this space for programs they cannot host safely in their own building. Private rentals are also starting to come back. We feel we are providing an essential service to the community and request that the Commission fund $2,000 to help us keep our building open, either directly to the Women's Club of Shinnston or through the City of Shinnston. The Mayor, Council, and City Manager have been most supportive. we thank you for your consideration of this request. I'm available for questions, contact information, and signed by Deborah Herndon, President.
All right. Hey, Deborah, let me ask you, on your, report, several years ago, the commission gave 5,000 for the roof or something, 5,500.
It was somewhere between, 3,500 and
Did we
5,500.
give it directly to the women's club, or did we do it, when you were city manager through the, city of Shinnston?
I believe it was directly through the Women's Club. Now, I don't remember it coming through the city.
Nor do I. Anything you want to add?
No, we just, we're really excited, as I said, to get that partnership with the city and to get some people involved that, were able to help us red up the building so it was easier to clean and we can do this during COVID.
Because right now, it's over at the, meetings are usually held there on the corner at the, where you have all the exhibits, the museum.
No meetings have been held in the museum of late.
Okay, but I mean, there used to be meetings back there.
The garden club used to meet there, but
Okay.
there's not enough room for social distancing
All
there.
right. What's the pleasure of the commission? Patsy, you're a resident down there. Hey, David? Mr. Parker, what's the recommendation of staff?
If the commission would proceed, I would probably recommend that we provide funding through the city of Shinnston. That would comply or
With the stipulation.
with your stipulations. I mean,
Deborah, is that fine?
That's fine. The city manager is actually a member of the Women's Club. He's very
Member of the
supportive.
Women's Club?
Yeah,
And Guy, that's good.
yeah.
All right. So, how about a motion to that effect, guys? All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Deborah,
Thank you.
go in peace. Your husband's still playing with the band?
No, he's not. He's, pursuing a degree, through a church school right now. So that
All
keeps
right.
him busy. Well, thank you very much.
Wish you well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, back on the regular agenda, item 8, Mr. Parker, this was in search of legal counsel. Did we have any takers?
I need to have further discussion with Mr. Ray Zimmerman. He's been working with the planning commission.
All right,
To my knowledge, right now, he's the only individual that has expressed some interest, and I just need to
all right.
provide some further question, or answer some further questions he may have to the best of my ability.
Anything from the commissioners? Nancy? David? All right, proceed with that, Mr. Parker.
All right.
Item 9 is, discuss and consider and review the copier. Bids on the copier.
We have some areas where we're in desperate need of some replacements, county commission being one, circuit clerk and others, for up to 8 copiers. I did also just insert some language, on the first page you have there for item 9 of the number of copies on the average and the aggregate. So that would be included in what we put forth. And then the specifications is just requesting authorization from the commission to proceed. Just, all this is authorization to proceed and then bring back whatever on October the 7th.
Okay, are these rentals or are these purchases?
These will be lease rental.
All right.
For up to a 48-month time
All
period.
right. All right. Authorization to allow them to continue for requests for bids?
My only question is, are we doing straight black and white, or are we doing black and white color?
Black and white and color is that's one thing I put in the specification. The first sheet, the specification sheet does indicate color capabilities, yes.
They need to.
Most do, yes. Anymore with maps and such, it would be my opinion, yes. I mean, I'm putting, I think it's 1,250 copies on the average. It's not as many, of course, compared to the black and white, but, there's sometimes a need for color copiers wherever you may be. It would be my recommended yes, that we have that capability.
All right, other questions? Motion to allow staff to proceed?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item 10, any opposed? Item 10 is to review, discuss, consider agreement with Meadowbrook Mall, early voting locations. Susan, anything you want to add on that? I don't think there's going to be any objection on this end.
No, it's just the same space we had in the primary.
All right. We need a motion to,
Move to approve.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, lastly is, commission comments. I can only go from my calendar here. Today is, Independence Day in Mexico. Just a little information.
Thank you.
Patsy. David.
No.
All right. Motion to adjourn. We got a motion from Patsy. Any, discussion? Here none. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.
I do have a stack of invoices I need some signatures on, as well as
All
a
right.
stack of papers for the president and the clerk's signatures.
All right.